From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson, and we apologize for the audio difficulties there. We were supposed to have Hector on the show, but it looks like we have a little problem with the telephone line. Before we continue any further, I just want to give a special word of thanks to my friend Kenny Graham, who's on the other side of the glass, always doing a great job of double dipping, because right now he's actually going back and forth between directing this show and making sure that my dear friend Coach John, who's doing the Staten Island Soccer Report in the next half hour, is going smoothly right now. So I just wanted to say we hope that you had a really nice Labor Day weekend. We apologize if we weren't on last week, because we actually had some really busy work that we had to take care of. So hopefully you'll be able to join us tonight, and we can talk a whole lot of sports in the meantime. Kenny, are you able to get Hector on the phone? So he's waiting for a phone call. Okay. All right. So in the meantime, we got a whole lot of stuff to take care of. Specifically, the Yankees being this close to winning an Eastern Division title. The Mets basically hanging by a thread right now in trying to get that second wild card spot. They're 4 games behind with another, I think, 12 games to go. It's not impossible, but you look at the teams that are in front of the Mets, like the Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers. It's going to get really, really difficult for the Mets to try and do anything. And we just got word that Hector joined us on the phone. You there, Hector?
The hardest by the 60th man on cable access TV. That's how you should announce me and address me. How dare you?
The only way I should be addressing you is as the town drunk.
How dare you?
Because I can. I can.
But going back to what you were saying, I got a question for you.
Yeah?
You're talking about the Mets, and you're talking about the Yankees, and you're talking about the Eastern Division, the Western Division, and you're talking about how the Giants lost 2 games. Is it Eli Manning's fault? You know, they're taking out the banners to get the other guy in. Are they screaming and yelling? Are the Jets doing what they're supposed to be doing? And how are their divisions going? And do people crave football more than baseball and basketball and hockey now?
They've been craving football and basketball more than baseball and hockey for I don't know, maybe 20 years now?
So you're saying that football is America's pastime now?
They've long been America's pastime. Been that way for decades.
So let me ask you, talking about the Mets, do they have the chance still, or do they just mathematically done with?
Mathematically, they're still there. But realistically, I just don't see it. I mean, when you have a bullpen like theirs that blows one lead after another time and time again, just last night, the Mets wound up blowing their 27th lead this season. You just don't win games by blowing 27 leads all throughout the season. And it's a real shame, too, because Zach Wheeler pitched superbly last night. Jacob deGrom was outstanding on Saturday night.
Now, here's the big question. Is it the manager's fault? Is it the pitching coach's fault? Or is it just that their bullpen is not that good?
It's a combination of both. It's a combination of both. The bullpen is just putrid. And you look at some of the guys that have been the main culprits, like Edwin Diaz and Jodis Familia, 2 guys who have been horrendous all season. Then you've got the guys who sometimes you wonder if they're really ready for prime time, like Paul Sewald or Tyler Batchelor Then you've got the two guys who've actually been solid for the majority of the year, Justin Wilson and Seth Lugo. Unfortunately, Seth Lugo wound up blowing a lead last night. Actually, it was Justin Wilson that blew the lead last night. Seth Lugo blew the tie last night. There's got to be some way for the Mets to try and reconstruct that bullpen next season, whether it's getting some veteran help or getting some reinforcements from the minor leagues. This bullpen needs to be fixed big time. And the first thing they have to deal with is Edwin Diaz. They have to decide if he's going to be their guy next year or if they're going to try and cut a deal for him, because they cannot blow so many leads in one season. I mean, right now they have, what is it? I'm trying to look at their record right now. Right now, the Mets' record is 77-72. You figure they blew 27 leads this year. The Mets could potentially have had maybe 90 to 95 wins at this point in the season if they didn't blow so many leads.
Yeah, but here's the problem again that you're having. And that is, you have Zach Wheeler. Do they re-sign him? Which I doubt, because the Mets are penny pinchers. Then, do you hire back Mickey Callaway?
Mickey Callaway's got to go, because he has completely mismanaged not just that starting rotation at times, but the bullpen also. And his double switches have been very, very head-scratching. He also has had major problems trying to figure out lineups. Aside from having Peter Alonso as the number 3 or the cleanup guy, I just don't see him being the guy long-term to lead this team.
And also, do you blame the pitching coach? The 81-year-old pitching coach or the 85-year-old pitching coach who, in the beginning, they age-shamed them, and when they had their hot streak, the pitching coach is great. You know, they didn't age-shame them now. Now all of a sudden, nothing.
Phil Regan can only do so much with that staff, that entire staff. And when you think about it, he's actually done a pretty decent job with the starting rotation. But the bullpen, that bullpen is beyond fixing right now.
And that's the thing, you need him to fix. You need to try to, that's what the pitching coach is supposed to do. You have to, he's got to try to get someone in there that could actually pitch, because if you look at it, 1 through 4, you're solid.
Yeah.
You've got the best starting, 1 through 4, you got the best starting pitching of anywhere that can go up against anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're losing Zach Wheeler next year if they don't try to re-sign him. And if he wasn't going to re-sign him, then you should have traded him. But they thought they were still in it, which they are mathematically.
If I'm the Mets, I try and give Wheeler a more than fair deal, because he's actually pitched very well this season. In spite of the record that he has, he's pitched very well this season. And Jacob deGrom, as always, has been the ace of that staff. Noah Syndergaard, up and down at times, but as long as he's keeping himself 100% healthy, he's going to be very, very steady. Steven Matz has actually improved this season. He's been much better this year. The one guy that I worry about is Marcus Stroman, because Marcus Stroman at times has looked very, very up and down for them.
You got him for one more year. He's still a young guy. That's it. It will always be a toss-up with anybody. It's a toss-up with anybody you get. Nothing is guaranteed. Okay? Majority of the time, nothing's guaranteed with them. But I wanted to ask you another question, and that is, what is an MVP, most valuable player, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, should the most valuable player be on the last place team?
No. And it's happened quite a few times.
Right.
Remember A-Rod being MVP on a last place Rangers team all those years ago.
But here's the thing. You know, if you go by batting average, does he help his team win? How many home runs does he hit, and so on? And the main thing is he helping his team win?
Well,
because that's a big controversy right now too.
If you go by helping his team win, he's practically bent over backwards trying to help the Angels this season. But the Angels have been woeful. Their pitching sucks. The batting order is in and out. You know the Angels are 14 games under 500 this season?
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. That's why I disagree with you on that. I think it doesn't matter if you're on a last place team or first place team. It's how you help your team. Because what is an MVP? Most valuable player. And the most valuable player means is how you help your team.
Well, in my eyes, the most valuable player should be the guy who not only helps his team win, but helps his team into the playoffs and has been there for so many big hits and so many clutch plays defensively. Right now, Mike Trout is the best player in baseball. Does that make him the most valuable player in the American League? Quite frankly, I just don't see it because he's on a rather woeful squad right now. And also, the guy signed a really, really big contract extension with them. He's going to be an Angel for life.
Let me ask you. Right now, what is his stat? What makes him the most valuable player?
He's a terrific power hitter, great contact hitter, superb defensive center fielder, great throwing arm, tracks down balls in the outfield, and is able to spark rallies when the Angels have most needed him. Yet somehow that has only translated into 68 wins this year.
Okay. That being said, after what you said, you mean to tell me that that guy's not a most valuable player?
In my eyes, no.
He's on the last place team?
On a next to last place team, I don't feel he's deserving of it, no.
There's been a lot of players that have been in, bottom of the barrel teams or not so great teams and have won the MVP. And to this day, some people are arguing that no, the person that should be the MVP is the one that should be at least the ones that get you into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. The ones that are in the playoffs should be, but you do have an MVP of the playoffs.
Right.
And you have an MVP for the season, then you have an MVP for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going, and the writers pick the most valuable player before the playoffs start.
Yeah, they always do that before the playoffs start.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
They always do that for the playoffs start. It's been that way for years.
But I think he deserves it. I mean, if what you just said, and he's doing all that, and he's leading the batting average wise, home run, and do whatever, he deserves it. Numbers wise and so on, and he deserves it. You can't take that away from him.
Well, the only reason why he might be the MVP is because of his numbers, instead of the real reason, and that's because he helped his team be a contender this year.
let me ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Who would be the MVP for the Yankees right now?
Who's the MVP on the Yankees?
Who would be the MVP for the Yankees right now?
Take your pick. DJ LeMahieu. Mike Tauchman. At this rate, DJ LeMahieu is the MVP of the Yankees. In fact, I would say that LeMahieu should be the American League's most valuable player of the year. Because he has been there for every single game this year. And all he's ever done is get one big home run after another, get one big base hit, drive in one big run after another, and play the best defense on the infield that any player has ever had in playing the pinstripes. He just got here, and he has been the guy. That is the definition of an MVP.
And the guy that hurt himself.
Mike Tauchman?
And he's out for the season, yeah.
Mike Tauchman's loss is so big for them. But this also possibly opens the door for maybe Giancarlo Stanton, who's only played 9 games this year.
No, I'm talking. Is that the guy? I thought he played for Seattle or some other team. The guy that hit the ball off his knee and cracked it or something, and he's out for the season. I forgot the guy's name. Maybe it was a Yankee. I'm not sure. But all I know, he was up for the MVP, and he foul balled a ball off his knee, and he's out for the season. He's out for the season.
I know who you're talking about.
Exactly.
I think you might be talking about. Would you happen to be talking about Christian Yelich? Because that's another guy who's going to be missing the season.
Yes.
And he could be the difference between the Brewers making the playoffs and missing the playoffs.
You see, but that's the point of an MVP. If you can try to bring up your team like Mike Trout is doing, even though they're in second to last place or whatever, they're at the bottom of the barrel. But he's their best player, and he's doing better than the first place team. The guy that's in first place is second place, and the numbers are proving it. Then what are you going to say? Just because he's in first place, I'll give it to the guy that's in first place, even though the guy that's at the bottom of the barrel's got better numbers?
No, I'm saying that the guy that's done the most to help his team contend should be the one in the running. And right now, DJ LeMahieu is the guy that fits that bill. You know who else fits that bill? Nelson Cruz of the Twins. He has been the difference for the Twins being in first place in the Central this season. You know who else is? You know who else is a candidate for MVP? And I'm talking National League now. Freddie Freeman.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Freddie Freeman from the Braves. All he's ever done is supply good defense at first and get one big home run or one big hit of any other kind after another for the Braves this season. Who else should be the guy that should be...
You said Braves, right?
Yeah, for the Atlanta Braves. Who else should be an MVP? Specifically in the National League.
Do they have a list?
Do they have a list?
Yeah.
They haven't made out their complete list yet.
Oh, okay.
We'll probably be seeing the nominees take place at the end of the year. And then they'll make their picks on the MLB network after the World Series ends. Need I say more?
Yep. No, I mean, those are guys. Now, I bet you the ones that are at the bottom of the team, the ones that are at the bottom of the list, there's not one guy that's doing a Mike Trout.
Nope.
Right now.
Oh, no, they're not even close to Trout's numbers right now.
No. And they're just going by numbers. And, you know, sometimes they go by how many guys he's thrown out at the plate, how many spectacular catches, how many games that he's won just by catching the ball. You know, it could be all that, and it's about writers.
Mm-hmm.
Writers, coaches, I think it's writers, managers.
It's the writers.
And
It's the broadcasters. I don't know if the managers have anything to do with it, though. I do know that writers and broadcasters really have their say, especially the ones in the hall.
right. Oh, the people at the hall too. And that's another thing. Jim Rice never really had a good rapport.
Oh no, he hated reporters.
With the reporters, and the reporters held him back from the Hall of Fame. And and just because he said something wrong to you should not hold a grudge. You should go and say, hey, listen, does he have the best numbers? Does he deserve to be in there?
Jim had a really good career, though, and he should have made the Hall a long time ago.
But the reason why
I think it's these vindictive reporters that wound up holding him back from trying to make it into Cooperstown. It took, 15 to 20 years for him to finally get the call?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Right now, there's some very vindictive people out there, and they shouldn't be. I mean, as human beings, we do that, but sometimes you got to say, hey, listen, technically, was he a damn good ball player? Yes or no? Does Mike Mussina belong in the Hall of Fame with his record?
Well, Ted Williams hated the Boston media, and he got in on the first ballot. Why? Because he was that great.
That's why. That's because he was great.
You know who else? It's really funny that you mentioned Jim Rice, because Jim Rice long had a really testy relationship with the media. You know who else had a really frosty relationship with the media? And this went on for almost a quarter century. Steve Carlton. Steve Carlton never said a peep to any reporters, and he was able to make the Hall. And the only reason why he distanced himself from the media was because he found out that one reporter wound up saying something derogatory about him. So he decided to freeze them out forever.
Oh, like James Dolan is trying to do?
Yeah.
And he got fined for that. Good for him. I'm glad he got fined. So let me ask you, right now, in baseball, who's in first place and who's going to, so far in potential to make the wild card?
The Yankees lead the East. In fact, they have a magic number now. Everybody's talking magic numbers. The magic number for the Yankees to win the East is 3, which means they could probably complete a 3-game sweep of the Angels to get the division title. The Twins lead the Central, but only by 4.5 games. And then there's the Astros, who lead out West. But they have a pretty sizable margin over Oakland right now. At this rate, it's Tampa and Oakland that are the two wild cards. Oakland leads Cleveland by, I think, 1.5 games for that second spot. Everybody else is officially done. As for the National League, we know that the Dodgers won the West. The Braves clinched a playoff spot. Now it's just a matter of them winning the Eastern Division. And their magic number, I think, is 5. The only race left over is for the Central Division, because the Cardinals have, I think, a 2-game lead over the Brewers and a 4-game lead over the Cubs. And at this moment, it's the Nationals and the Brewers. No, the Nationals and the Cubs that are the 2 wild cards. The Brewers are a game behind the Cubs for that last playoff spot. And the Mets, although I would not count them in for this race, are 4 games behind. The Mets are 4 games behind.
Okay.
And the Mets' schedule is going to get really, really tough, because tonight they have to play in Denver against the Rockies, and the Mets have had major, major problems winning games in Denver. Then they have to go to Cincinnati to play a Reds team that's going to look to be a spoiler. And then next week, they have to play the worst team in the National League, which is the Marlins, a team that's given the Mets nothing but trouble in the past. Then they finish the season against the Braves. And the Braves have dominated the Mets this year. So right now, at this rate, I really don't see the Mets doing that much with their schedule. And
the only way that the Mets could win is if the other teams step up and beat the people that they need to beat so that the Mets can get in.
Which means the Mets have to sweep the Rockies and the Reds and the Marlins and at least take 2 out of 3 from the Braves and then hope that the Brewers and the Cubs completely self-destruct down the stretch. And with the Cubs missing Anthony Rizzo and the Brewers missing Christian Yelich, anything can happen. But seeing how the Mets have just blown one lead after another this season, I don't see it happening.
So there's a slight possibility because you don't know if the teams are going to implode, as such as the Cubs and the Brewers.
Exactly right.
You don't know if they're going to implode because do you know who they're playing? What their schedule is?
The Brewers, you mean?
Yes.
Let's check out the Brewers' schedule right now.
Why are you looking at that? How did you like that law in California with basketball, the college guys?
I love it.
Get their paid.
It's about time that these college kids get rewarded for their years of service. In case anybody didn't keep up.
Understand.
There's a new law that just got passed in the state of California, which says that NCAA athletes can now be paid for their name and their likeness. And already we're getting people in the NCAA that say that it's going to destroy college sports as we know it. They don't know if it's going to destroy college sports, first of all, because for years we've been seeing players getting some gifts and a little bit of cash under the table, and some got away with it, some wound up getting caught. Does the name of the University of Miami ring a bell? Remember that famous 30 for 30 story about the Hurricanes? It was called the U. Who was
That's where the Rock played, right?
What's that?
Didn't the Rock play for the Hurricanes?
Yes, he did. The Rock played for the University of Miami at one time. That school has produced countless great players. Jim Kelly, Melvin Bratton, Willis McGahee also.
Former wrestlers, too.
Yep, former wrestlers, too. The Rock went to the University of Miami, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he got his degree from there, too. Although his time with the U got cut a little bit because of a knee injury. He did play a little bit in Canada, though.
Yeah, he did play in Canada.
But guess who were two of their biggest boosters on that Miami football team? Number one was, of all people, Uncle Luke. Luther Campbell from 2 Live Crew. He would invite players to his mansion in Miami Beach, and he would give them a whole bunch of cash and gifts. One guy actually wound up getting something as simple as Pampers because he had to take care of his child.
Yeah.
And then there was this really, really shady agent from way back in the day. This guy not only rewarded them with a whole bunch of stuff, He even covered for one player who went to a strip club and got a stripper pregnant.
Oh, man.
And the agent paid for the stripper's abortion because, according to the agent, well, this player would have probably wanted to have the baby. And as it turns out, that strip club is the same strip club where my cousin's husband, and I went to celebrate a birthday.
Yeah.
It was called the Pink Pony.
Now, let me ask you.
Yep.
They're going to get money on the likeness of shirts. And
Shirts, jerseys, sneakers, PlayStation
DVD.
also, DVDs as well. Any stories about the team? Naturally, they're going to want something back for it. This is a landmark moment for college sports. For years, they were practically indentured servants to their university, and all they were getting out of it was nothing. It's a little pat on the back.
No. They were getting their college education depending upon which college you're in, you're getting an excellent, like, let's say you're in Miami. That's an excellent college. Now, the tuition there must cost higher than, let's say, the College of Staten Island or Wagner College.
CSI is barely what? 10 grand?
Okay.
You know what the University of Miami is as a whole? $45,000 to $50,000 a year.
Okay. That being said, you let's say you get signed up for a 4-year scholarship, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say you get a little bit of tuition. Money.
Mm-hmm.
But that still doesn't cover. I mean, if you try to get a job, you have to worry. And that's why people get out early.
Exactly right.
Because we were talking about this before off the air, and we were talking about how when it comes to, let's say, basketball, they leave at 19 or they leave at 20 years old. They make it into the draft. They get drafted for 3 years, and let's say they bomb.
Mm-hmm. Or
they
worse.
Get paid for 3.
Or worse, they don't get drafted at all, and they have to toil in either the G League or overseas.
So let's go with they get drafted. They get drafted. They sign for 3 years. They don't play like the way they're supposed to. Hopefully that one particular person saved his money instead of blowing his money. And then where does that kid go? Does he go back to college and try to get his degree? Or does he try other venues such as coaching or trying other places to play basketball?
Oh, he definitely wants to play. After just 3 years in the league, he's going to keep playing.
Yeah.
Unless he suffers a debilitating injury that prevents him from playing ever again.
And that's another thing, too, that if you get an injury, at least you have the money to cover you, unless you've blown it.
Mm-hmm.
But now with this law going into effect, maybe it should give people incentives now. Now, there's only one problem that I can see. There's only one problem that I can see happening.
Which is?
And I think this is where I think that they say it's going to be destructive. And that is, let's say the Miami Hurricanes, you see them so much on TV that they're famous, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, what about the baseball team? What about the swimming team? What about the wrestling team?
So in other words, you're saying that if the football team gets more clout, the other sports will get the short end of the stick, right?
Yes, exactly. That's the point some of these people are making, that, you know, unless you somehow split that money up so that everybody gets a piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're generating, if you're focusing more on football and the rest of the sports are non-deplumed, they're not there, then how are the other guys going to make any money?
I should let you know, though, swimming is a pretty big deal in college because there have been a ton of Olympians that have made their way through the college ranks.
No,
some have been from here in the States. Others have come from overseas.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, in general, you would rather see a football game than swimming. And who's going to sell more shirts? Football players than swimmers, unless you're really into the game and into the sport. That sport is not going to generate enough money. That's one of the problems that's going to happen. Is it going to be destructive? I don't think it's going to be destructive, but I think it's going to be an annoyance because people are going to start yelling out, well, you got to stop pushing my sport now.
If you ask certain coaches in the game, they will insist this will forever destroy college sports.
Yeah.
As if the college sports have not been damaged enough with so many programs under probation. I mean, Miami has had violations coming out the yin-yang, and they're probably still doing something illegal right now. USC was the same way. Reggie Bush had his Heisman Trophy taken away because his parents wound up getting a new house in San Diego.
Exactly. I mean, you have the underhanded things going on, but if you pay the athletes just for food, clothing, and so on, then you make them minor league pro players. And then again, if you pay one, you got to pay the other. And then they're going to say, well, where's the money coming from if this sport doesn't generate as much as football? Let's say, let's say for the sake of argument's sake, lacrosse doesn't generate as much as football. Right?
Oh, lacrosse is a big, big sport in this country.
No, but I'm just saying, but compared to football,
obviously lacrosse does not draw as much money as football does, but lacrosse gets its fair share of dollars. It's a really great sport as being played all across the planet.
Yes, it's true, but where do you see it on TV?
It's funny you mention that
They don't cover it like they do football.
It's funny that you mention that because the Atlantic Coast Conference now has their own television network as of last month. So you could see plenty of lacrosse games on the ACC network. Same thing for the Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference and the Pac-12.
Oh, congratulations on CSI.
Yes.
The basketball team.
Yes, sir.
Tell them why.
What's that?
Tell them why. Tell them what happened to the basketball team.
I'm gonna do that right now.
They went to, I think, Division II.
Ah, here we go.
They went to Division II.
There it is. This was first reported by the Advance, of course.
Yes.
The College of Staten Island has now gotten promoted to the Division II ranks, which is a very, very, very difficult thing for any school to do. A lot of people look at Division I as the prime time type of sports. Division II has been very, very competitive. CBS always broadcasts the Division II National Basketball Championship every single year. As a matter of fact, there have been a lot of famous names that have come out of Division II. Charles Oakley being one. He went to Virginia Union. And also, I think Devin George, who went to Augsburg College in Minnesota and won a couple of titles with the Lakers. So now CSI has gone to Division II, and for the record, the move is going to be made, I think, next summer, July 2020.
And who's the coach again?
The coach of the basketball team, I can find out that for you right now.
Is it going to be for both men and women, or just?
It's going to be for all sports.
Good. This is going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be fun because, not for nothing, the colleges of Staten Island has some great teachers. Some of them, there are some great teachers. There are some horrible teachers. It's just like everywhere else you work. But
exactly right. And for the record,
let me finish this. Just like Wagner College and every other college that's here on Staten Island, Staten Island has got to support the colleges. Like they do in Florida and Miami, all them college places.
Right.
They don't support the colleges here. They don't support them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look what we did when we played volleyball. You had about 10 people for the girls' volleyball team, or 15.
Yep.
What kind of nonsense is that?
Couldn't even begin to tell you. For the record, the man that coaches the men's team is TJ Tibbs. He's in his second season. Of course,
Do you know him? Do you know his stats?
Of course, Tony Petoza wound up retiring a few years ago, and TJ Tibbs is a former St. Peter's grad who attended CSI. He's now in his second season, and his first season there, he did a really good job with them. 17 wins and 12 losses. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they also won the ECAC championship, which is the local basketball championship that they have here.
Now, in that division,
which is the CUNY.
You got to talk about the American basketball. But I just wanted to ask you, name 2 or 3, if you know, colleges in Division II.
Name 2 or 3 what?
Colleges that are in Division II.
2 or 3 colleges that are in Division II. Well, in our neck of the
CSI.
In our neck of the woods, over in Long Island, Adelphi University. And there is also, I mentioned Virginia Union before. The other Division II school that's in our area is Adelphi. That's one of the schools that I know about. If I'm not mistaken,
doesn't necessarily be here, but I'm saying who's in Division II anywhere. Just name a couple.
Who's in Division II anyway? Let me find that out for you right now.
Okay. And did you hear, while you're finding that out, Frank Ninikita exploding for France. Our Nick Craddock.
Against the United States.
The little flower spreading his wings.
This just goes to show you one thing. If you don't have a superstar player on your roster, you're not going to win. Look at who Team USA had on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan Mitchell, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown from the Celtics. No one else that was a real clear-cut superstar was on that team at all. This just goes to show you that when the Olympics begin next season, it's critical that Team USA get some superstars on that roster if they're going to compete. Because if not, then Kobe Bryant's statement is going to be true. The days of Team USA dominating basketball in the Olympics are going to be done. The days of the Americans dominating basketball around this planet in any competition are going to be done. Case in point, this year's World Cup of Basketball. Not only did France beat Team USA, if I'm not mistaken, I think they might have finished either in fourth place or might have gotten a bronze medal out of this World Cup.
But
and for the record, the country that wound up winning the World Cup of Basketball was Spain.
All I know is that Frank Nikita, the great blocker, the great defender, he's a scoring machine.
He's not a scoring machine.
Ball.
He's not a scoring machine. Give me a break, please.
He played better over there than he does over here. And now the big question in everybody's mind: do you trade him or do you keep him? Now that you know that he can give you that, what he did in France.
And for the record, France wound up winning a bronze medal in the World Cup.
Look at that.
And Spain blew out Argentina for the gold medal, so Argentina gets a silver. And the United States, 7th place.
Okay. Now, you see, now who's in Division 2 that CSI is going to play?
All right, I'm going to find that out for you right now.
But that's something that law came out. That's great for the team, but they got to figure out now, as I said before, if you spend it, if football is getting all the money for that and basketball is getting all the money because they get a lot of TV time.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball's doesn't get their money. Lacrosse is not getting them money. There's other sports that out there that are not going to get that much money. So, what are you going to do about that? It's bad enough that you can't even get the same amount of money for women, for women's leagues. Like when the men's basketball team and the women's basketball team, the women's get less for some strange reason.
Yep. Now, let me just let you know the schools in our area and also in the state of New York that make up part of Division II. We mentioned Adelphi, which is in Long Island. There's also Lemoyne College, which is up in Syracuse. Pace University, which for years has had a very tough football team. Pace, of course, is in Pleasantville. There's the College of St. Rose, which is in Albany. There's also Mercy College, which is in Dobbs Ferry. Malloy, which is in Rockville Center. And St. Thomas Aquinas, which is in Spark Hill. And who used to be in Division II is the school formerly known as CW Post. Now they're known as LIU Post.
Well,
and their nickname is the Sharks.
CSI does its wins. I hope Writing College wins. Now, I wonder, are there any big games that they show on TV that are Division II?
That they should be showing in Division II on TV? Depends on the situation. And also, it depends on the program. Usually, they wait until conference championship season before they start airing the Division II games. I know that BET in the past has broadcast the Southwest. Well, ESPN broadcasts the Southwestern Athletic Conference, but that's Division I. But in Division II, BET used to broadcast the Division II conference in which Winston-Salem State is located in. It's the CIAA.
Now, I wanted to ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants lost 2 games.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. The football. Giants lost 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Do you blame Eli Manning or do you play? Who do you blame? Because all I'm hearing now is bring back the other guy. Bring in the new guy. Bring in the new guy.
It's funny that you mentioned that because now all of a sudden, their head coach, Pat Shurmur, is now having second thoughts about who he wants as his starting quarterback. And
Now,
to answer your question, I blame it not only on Eli, because he's only been generating 31 points in 2 games. Again, I blame the defense. They did nothing to stop a Buffalo offense that has a second-year quarterback who's still trying to make his way around the league. I mean, come
how about
on.
their offensive line? How about their offensive line?
The offensive line it's actually improving a little bit. I mean, I don't want to say that it's terrible, but at the same time, Eli made 2 really bad turnovers when they were trying to get back in the game that wound up killing them.
Now, didn't I tell you? Now, how many games did we say, or how many games did you say that Eli will come in? How many games did you say? Do you remember?
I think I said I would have given them maybe half the season. And already there's a sounding of the alarm after 2 games.
Didn't I tell you that?
Yeah.
And didn't I also tell you that the coach, this is how you know the coach don't want your quarterback, because he's already going, he's already, trying to make up for the fact that he wants the other guy. He's always wanted the other guy.
Yeah.
It's the owners. The owners of the team wanted Eli Manning.
Yep.
So, I mean, at this point in time, you got to give him enough games.
Mm-hmm.
Because not for nothing, even if you bring the new guy in, I forgot the guy's name already.
Yeah.
What's the quarterback's name?
On the Giants, you mean?
Yeah.
You mean Daniel Jones?
Daniel Jones, yeah. Even if you bring him in, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least a lot of those plays will not be there next year, because you hope and pray that they will get better players next year defensively, and they'll get a little younger.
Yeah.
So
eventually the Giants are going to have to do a reconstruction of their roster, which means bringing in some much younger players. Although knowing them, they want to contend every year, so maybe they will bring in a few veterans every now and then. But probably the best thing to do would be to completely rebuild. That's the only thing they can do.
Yeah, I mean, you always need a veteran or two to get the young guys. Somebody's got to teach them on the field.
Yeah.
You always need a couple of them.
And that's what Eli is for. And Eli has been more than happy to tutor the kid.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Daniel Jones, people say he should start because of what he did in the preseason.
There's a difference between the preseason and the regular season, man. No guarantee he's going to be doing that. He's going to duplicate that, I should say, in the regular season.
As I said, the coach always wanted him. The management, or should I say, not management, the owner of the team wanted Eli Manning, because every time they talked about to the coach, he always tried to evade the question or somehow. But
the best coaches do.
And so right now, you're still sticking that Eli should get at least how many games before they put Daniel Jones in? How many games should he get in?
I still say that he should be given at least half the season before any decision should be made. But the way Coach Shurmur is relenting right now, don't be surprised if you see Daniel Jones start in Tampa on Sunday.
Now, the Jets.
Oh, they're in trouble. Not only is Sam Darnold suffering from mononucleosis, which is going to keep him out for 6 weeks, Trevor Siemian has to be the quarterback now. And they're playing the Browns tonight at home. This is going to get really ugly really quickly. I can tell you this right now.
Now, how good or how bad is this? This quarterback, who's supposed to be the backup quarterback, who's supposed to be good enough or just as good to take over at least a couple of games for you.
I mean, Trevor Siemian has good size and arm strength, but his field vision is really, really shaky, and he cannot take care of the football at times.
So why do you think the Jets drafted him or took him?
They wound up signing him off the scrap heap because they needed a backup, a younger backup for Sam Darnold. They weren't going to rely on Josh McCown anymore. And now Josh McCown's in Philly.
Yeah, exactly. After retiring and then coming back.
When you're an athlete, you never really want to retire. You want to play forever.
And then you got Kaepernick still out there.
Kaepernick is still out there, even though Ben Roethlisberger busted his elbow in yesterday's game, wound up getting surgery, and now is going to be out for the rest of the year. And also Drew Brees, he wound up tearing ligaments in his thumb. Although he's not going to get surgery, he's going to be out at least 6 weeks. But at least the Saints still have Teddy Bridgewater to try and get them by for the next 6 weeks. And Teddy Bridgewater is very, very solid.
So isn't that sad that you got Kaepernick out there, who's better than a lot of quarterbacks out there right now? And because of this mess that's going on, they don't want to do it. Then you got the XFL coming. Maybe he'll play for the XFL. I doubt it because Vince McMahon knows Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But maybe he'll play for the other football team the football league that's coming up.
If you mean the Alliance of American Football, I think that ship has sailed because the AAF went belly up this past spring.
Oh, really?
They ran out of money.
And, it's sad because, people want to see football, but they must not want to see it year-round.
They want to see good football, not awful football.
Well, let's see what the XFL does in the women's league. The football women's league is going to come out soon, too, next year.
Yeah, this is the first major women's football league that's going to be taking place. I'm curious to see how the style of play is going to be.
It should be the same as the guys. They should be no different. If they're going to play the same way, if they're going to play football, let it be the same way as the guys. There shouldn't be that the football should be smaller, none of that. I mean, unless their hands are smaller, but unless the majority of their hands are smaller, yeah, then fine. But you know what? Just keep it as is. Keep the same rules and be done with it. You shouldn't change one rule. Not just like that. But I'm sure we're ready to wrap up.
Yep. A minute left.
And I'm sorry for Mello not being able to be on the team. But all in all, I sent you enough things to know. I sent you enough stuff to let you know that the Knicks, according to some of the writers, have a slight chance of making the playoffs.
They're not making the playoffs this year. No chance.
But I don't know how. If they do, I wouldn't know how. But let me ask you one last question.
Yeah, quickly.
Who was the last team who didn't have a superstar but made it to the playoffs or won the championship?
I have to get back to you that next week.
All right. Cool. All
right, thanks to...
Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Hector Bosa.
And I'm Jamie. We'll see you next Monday night.
Same time?
Same channel.
All right.